Hello and welcome to this week's edition of In Her Time, brought to you by Amnesty International Zimbabwe. I'm your host, Nicole Madziwa, and today in studio, I'm joined by Amnesty International Zimbabwe SRHR champion, Alpha Bothwell Gwatidzo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. Let me actually start by saying happy Women's Month to you and our viewers as well.
Thank you so much. So you just took my line. I think you need to come and sit on this chair. So we are still commemorating Women's Month, and we're continuing with our 4-part series on sexual reproductive health in Zimbabwe. So, you know, I just mentioned that you are an SRHR champion. What made you to become a champion? I like being a champion, so you know, I want to excel in everything. So what made you be in this position, or are you passionate about it? What really happened?
Okay, let me actually take it from the top. So SRHR, like some people would question what that means. It's sexual reproductive health and rights. So I'm a sexual reproductive health and rights champion. And to answer your question, I think that was what made you an SRHR champion. I was trying to think of but anyways, as we all know, we all born from women, and it is from my personal experiences at home. I was raised by a single mom. She was a teen mom herself, and also, you know, growing up in Zimbabwe, the experiences from the communities where we are coming from, teen moms, issues to do with adolescent girls, you know, it's a whole lot, it's a plethora of issues actually, and it just sparks the passion in me, and I just want to change the world, because I never want any woman to go through what I saw my mom going through, to put food on the table, to clothe us, to send us to school. You know, it's a situation where a lot of women, especially coming from underprivileged communities, are going through, and it's the need to change that.
Beautiful stuff. I mean, as you were talking, I'm just zoned in, and I'm like, wow, if all our communities and if all our men had that passion, you know, for championing issues to do with women and issues that are affecting women, I think the world would truly be a better place. So Alpha, what are some of the common myths and misconceptions about youth and adolescent sexuality that you have encountered as a champion for SRHR?
There are many, Nicole. You'd be surprised. One, for instance, is our communities think that adolescent girls are not sexually active. You'd be surprised that some people think that someone who's going through puberty is not sexually active.
But do you think that is it because we don't know, or we would rather pretend not to know? Because I mean, my parents, if they know that I'm actually quite a guru in the street, it may hurt their feelings, and they may be forced for them to have...
It's cognitive dissonance.
Right.
We want to be detached from the reality of things. They know, because they've gone through these phases, what these young girls be doing, but then they're in denial. They don't want to accept the reality of things on the ground. The other misconception is, you know, it's actually like, we have things like, they think that I don't know if I should say this.
Please do, for the benefit of our viewers that are watching right now. So what are you trying to say, Alpha? Please do.
They think that young women don't need actually services to sexual reproductive health and rights services. Like, I'm talking condoms. Like, for instance, I've been in those public hearing meetings, and then we have a whole person, like a religious leader, look down and be like, do you really need condoms? And of course, if you have young people, especially young women, and you have a leader, they're probably going to say no. And then this is religion that is forcing our young women to say no, when we know, because from the work that we do in the communities, we know the consumption of those services, the uptake, they need them. So yeah.
So do you think this is why young people would rather have AIDS than be pregnant?
No, I wouldn't say they'd rather,
because they I mean the idea generally is, if I'm pregnant, people will see, you know, but I can roam around with my STI and no one will see. So then again, it's the detachment to the reality that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, but it's because of the way the community reacts to them being open and to them accessing these services.
Right. Okay. And how do you approach these conversations?
Oh, you have to be very sensitive. You also be glad to know that as part of our training, we are given the resources to implement. I actually do have a whole show that looks at young people's relationship. Relationships have been evolving and how that affects their sexual reproductive health and rights. I also work with an organization that work with teen moms and pregnant adolescent girls. And when we go to the communities, we have to create a space where they are free, and you also have to be one of them. When they have someone they can safely speak to, when they can be open as well. So we need to be very sensitive. You need to create an environment where people don't feel judged. You also need to give them assurance that they are not alone in this ordeal. There's a whole lot of other women who are going through this, and if we come together, we can come up with a solution to this problem.
I understand how you have to create a safe space, because
it's very important.
These issues are often, they carry so much stigma.
And also as a response to what you said earlier on, if a safe space is not created, this is when you'd have a young person preferring to do an unsafe abortion, preferring to walk around with their STI, or getting infected with HIV and not even take their PrEP, because they don't want to go to, most of them wouldn't want to go to a public health place where they would feel judged, it is sometimes some of the nurses are not really friendly.
And okay, so I think you just touched a little bit of my next question. That's what are some of the challenges that in these safe spaces that you have with young people, the safe spaces that you're talking to young people, what are some of the challenges that they're encountering when it comes to their sexual reproductive health?
Societal stigma to sex and sexuality is one of the major problems, and we also have access to sexual reproductive health services themselves. For example, people would think that when we are speaking of access to sexual reproductive health and rights services, we're only talking about condoms, but it's a whole lot of stuff at play here. Even you visiting a gynecologist, it falls within that category, and these are some of the challenges that we believe young people are facing. And also we have an issue where when contraception fail, but we are saying we don't want young people to be pregnant. These are young people. It's a conversation. We don't want our young women to be pregnant, and we have become a society that tend to celebrate the normal, over-celebrate the normal, and overlook things that we are supposed to be concerned about. For instance, we over-celebrate young women graduating. That is normal. We have a system that is created. They are supposed to be graduating, but we overlook issues like 299 neonatal days, 59 maternal days recorded in the period of January. We overlook those things. Those are things that are supposed to be concerning to us. We are not supposed, it is such a shame at this day and age we are having issues like that. It speaks a lot to the health system and areas we need to improve. And we are not overlooking our role as the civil organization. Our role is to complement government's efforts, but we are not overlooking that. But it's a question around priority. We are not supposed to be having young people pregnant. We are not supposed to be having young people complaining about access to services. We are not supposed to be having teen moms, especially when there's so much we can do.
And what are some of how can we address these issues? Because I mean, it seems like a handful of issues that we have.
It takes money to solve these issues. Yes. We need to channel finances. We need to create the home setup, for example, is where these conversations are supposed to start. The community, the church, I have to put emphasis on that. A lot of young people in the church are seen as if they are not also in the communities, but these are the same young people we meet in the clubs. They're the same young people at choose, and also increasing access to these services, taking the services to the young people themselves, putting young people on the center of providing these services, so that we talk of issues around safe spaces.
Right. This is a very interesting conversation, because we just had this conversation in our last episode with Rachel, and she was just talking about how it takes each and every single person everywhere, to ensure that women and young girls are catered for, you know, and they're not left behind. I will hold you right there, and we will continue our conversations. So our viewers, stay tuned, and when we return, we'll look into how parents, educators, caregivers can support young people in developing healthy attitudes and behaviors around sex. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, my name is Taf and I am your host every Tuesday at 2 p.m. for Mental Health Watch Show, where we discuss everything mental health. And you know what? We make it so simple. We break down the big terms and make it palatable for you and I to understand, and so as much as to reduce the stigma. So do join us every Tuesday at 2 p.m. You know the place to be. It's Mental Health Watch on Heart and Soul.
Welcome back to the final and last segment of In Her Time, brought to you by Amnesty International Zimbabwe. And today I'm joined by Amnesty Zimbabwe SRHR champion Alpha Bothwell Gwatidzo. And before we went for the break, I know we're talking about, you know, the taboos and the different conversations that you're having with young people in their safe spaces to ensure that they know their rights. I know rights rubs off people the wrong way because now people are thinking it's an entitlement, but these are some of the services that young people, particularly young girls, require. And so my next question to you would be, how can parents, educators and caregivers support young people in developing healthier and better attitudes when it comes to sex and relationships? Because I know that this is your forte. Okay, you just told me that you have a show. So relationships of relationships, but how best as an SRHR champion under Amnesty International Zimbabwe, how best can all these people come together, knowing that certain issues we're not very keen to talk about with our parents, you know, with those that take care of us, our guardians. This must be very hard. I do not want to be in your position.
No, it's not even hard. So you'd realize the role of caregivers, the church, the parents, the educators, is to shape young people's attitudes and behaviors towards sex and relationships. It's their role actually to do that. In the yesteryear, we used to have the taters who used to do this and and stuff. But then times have changed. They are busy too as well. So one thing for certain, you need to be at the forefront of educating the young women and the young men as well, especially around sex and education, because if you do not do that, the streets or the social media will do that, because there are influencers nowadays who can do it in a special way. And you know, now you cannot stop anyone from preaching what they want, freedom of speech, and you don't want your kid to be consuming that information from the wrong people. So if you do not do it, someone else will do it for you. So their role is to make sure they provide correct information. They have conversation around consent, respect, if they are to promote meaningful relationships for their young people, and also if they are to have the young people not involved in sexual violence as well.
Okay. And how are you bringing the church on board in these conversations? Because the church is going to tell me to abstain, but I mean, you know.
Yes, of course. We talk of the ABC strategy.
Okay.
We are not trying to be here promoting sex. That's not what we are doing. We are saying, if need be, if you can, please do abstain. It's on top of the list. But if you cannot abstain, you know, be faithful to one partner, correct and consistent use of contraception, because there is a need nowadays. Statistics speaks for themselves. We are not promoting sex. We are promoting young people to have safe sex or safe sexual attitudes if the need be. Young people are, you know, the statistics speaks for themselves. We have a lot of young people dropping out of school due to pregnancy. What does that translate to? They're having sex. Those are raw results. We have young people going to seek treatment. Young people is 15, 16, 13, as young as 13-year-olds going to be treated for STIs. What does that translate to? They're having sex. So better safe than sorry.
Okay.
We cannot be in denial.
All right.
So it's their role to educate. It's their role to make sure the young people make informed, positive decisions.
Okay. And what do you think, what is the role of comprehensive sex education, what the role it plays in promoting healthy youth development?
It plays a major role, actually, because when we are speaking of issues to do with teen pregnancies, issues to do with STIs, we need to come from a perspective where we are dealing with a leaking tap problem. If you have a leaking tap in the house, the solution is not to mop. The solution is to is to repair the tap. So if we have teen moms, the solution is not to say give them contraception and stuff like that. Is to go to those schools and talk to those adolescents who are still going through puberty and adolescence, provide them with age-sensitive, age-appropriate comprehensive sexual education so that they make informed decision. There is a common myth that CSC, or comprehensive sexual education, actually leads to promiscuity, but that is a myth. Research shows that when young people are given enough tools, enough information, they can make informed decisions around their body and autonomy, make informed decisions, know when to say no, know when to negotiate for safe sex, know when to seek even treatment as well. So comprehensive sexual education is actually key to dealing with some of the problems that young women are facing, even young men as well.
So how can communities ensure that there are safe spaces where young people can talk about these issues that we're talking about here? I know that you are the champion of, you're championing this SRHR discussions in communities, but it's only in that particular space that you're in. So how can communities also come on board? How can they assist in this vision?
Okay, you also be excited to know that lately we also have been invited to do these sessions in churches, in schools as well. So what communities can do is to put young people who resonate better with the events or everything that is going on at the center of the programming. That is the most important thing to do. And of course, advised by the older generation, we need the knowledge, we need the guidance, but they have to put young people at the center of the programming, especially when I would give you an example. If it's a community outreach, if you have young people passing out condoms, if you have young people doing the HIV testing, the numbers that do come to receive or to acquire these services is a little bit higher than when you have actually health professionals. And I'm I think everybody sticks with their glasses on and everything. Young people just be like inquiring and don't even say, I want that condom. But then when we are doing it, we do condom demonstrations. It's fun. They ask these questions, they even tell you their experiences. So we need to put young people at the center of the programming, and we also need to train influencers, if I can say. We also need to train community leaders, religious leaders as well. They need to be informed that young people who are also in the communities are the same young people who come to the church. That is the only way from the top of my head that I think can work. And we also need to go digital, because nowadays it's really hard to meet all these young people at the same time. So we need to go where they are, which is the social media and the social platforms. So yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah. And what message would you want to say to young people that are watching with regards to their bodies, their sexuality? I know that it's a mouthful, particularly on the issue of sex and the right to make informed decisions before they do, they engage in sexual activities. What would you say if they're watching?
All right, since it's Women's Month, I'll mainly speak to women.
Okay.
But
and men also. Just a little bit.
Of course. Before I do that, it's actually important that men are also taught on these issues, because as we talk of women empowerment, we need to be very careful about perpetuating GBV, because a lot of these young men don't know how to deal with an empowered woman. Absolutely. And that already that creates a gap that is, you understand. So in closing, I would like to urge young men and women to be responsible about their bodies. It's your body, it's your right. You need to seek information from reliable sources. You need to go for your HIV test. You need to visit communities, health centers. Also, you need to you know, you need to use Google, for example.
Yeah.
People Google a lot of stuff that is not even necessary nowadays. You need to follow.
I mean, that's true. But sometimes Google doesn't do for me. So,
and most importantly, people need to be in charge of their own health. They need to make sure they visit STI screening, HIV counseling and testing. There are toll-free numbers. You know, there are community champions like me. There's a lot of us, and you can just engage them. And pretty much. But stay safe. That's all I can say. You need to make sure you're in charge of your health. You are safe. You make informed, positive decisions. We only have one life to live. Forget everything they tell you about 9 lives.
That's true. You're not a cat. You can never have 9 lives. Thank you so much, Alpha, for such an educative. And also, I know that we always talk about these things, but now and again, it's always good and it's always nice to be reminded to take yourself seriously, to take issues around you seriously. I know young people, a lot of young people, even those that are watching us, they're young people, and I know they may have questions. And sometimes as a society, I think it's a weakness that we have, assuming people know.
Yeah, that's very true.
We assume it's obvious, but not everyone actually knows.
You'll be surprised before you even close off that I heard someone say that PrEP cures STIs.
You see now, and there's so much little knowledge that is there, and you're doing amazing work. Thank you
so much. It's not only me, I'm part of something that is bigger than myself.
Absolutely. And we just want to thank once again Amnesty International Zimbabwe for this opportunity. So there you have it, viewers. Let us know what you think in the comment section on the issues that affect young people and what we always like talking about, sex and the decisions around it and everything, pretty much everything around it. And also remember to like and follow and share with your friends and their friends and the whole group. From me, Nicole Madziwa, this is what we had for you this week. Tune in again next week though as we continue on our 4-part series. Goodbye.